Hello and welcome to the ISL Podcast. We have our typical host, Bruno, with us today. Hello, Bruno.
Hello, everyone. Hello, guys.
And we are discussing match 6 today. And our guests today are Mads, Tom, Matteo, and Byron from Team Toronto Titan, Team Aqua Centurions, Energy Standard, and the New York Breakers. Thank you so much for making it, guys. It's a huge honor for us.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And sort of to start things off, this is a traditional question for these match analyses. What did the match imply for you going into this? Did you guys think of this match as sort of you have to win? Was this a testing strategy? Was there any pressure at all? And maybe we can start with Tom.
Every match was important to us for different reasons. On this match, we had come off of a big training block, and we finally had the opportunity to know our athletes a little bit more than we did when we first arrived in the first match. And we were with that knowledge, trying to figure out some lineup changes and make some small adjustments that we hoped would enable us to create the best lineup possible for what we hoped would be, where we hoped we would be in the final.
Makes sense. Thanks, Tom. And were you were still playing around a little bit with the lineups in this match, right? It wasn't your final. Yeah.
No, we didn't. We played around with the lineups all the way through, but this, I guess, was the first time that we had an opportunity to play with the lineups with better present knowledge of our athletes.
Thank you, Tom. Mads, for the New York Breakers, I mean, you guys were fighting to make it to the semis. How important was this match for you? And sort of, what was the team thinking coming into the match?
Well, it was very important because we got beaten very severely in our first match. We were fourth, and that kind of hurt. But second match, we were a bit better. And we knew that this third match, we had to compete with Toronto. And we had to beat Aqua Centurions in order to secure our place in the semifinals. We knew that the fourth match would be really tough because we're up against really strong teams. So this was really a key match for us. So we knew a lot more about our team. It was our third match, and we tweaked the lineup quite a bit to get more points. And I'll say we did a lot of analysis on our opponents as well and their lineups in order to make our lineup for this. So we kind of knew the game a little bit better here.
Okay, thanks, Mads. So you were more adept in sort of knowing how your swimmers, in which shape they were, what were they capable of. So you were a little more confident with the lineup in this match, right?
Oh, definitely. And we had a kind of an idea of how teams were progressing and in what direction athletes were going. So we could kind of we didn't know how it would all pan out, but we had ideas on this is where we need to go for jackpot points. This is where we don't have a chance. This is where we can rest our athletes and so on.
And you had some interesting decisions, but we'll get into that. We'll dive into that. Thank you, Mads. Matteo, for you, this match was you either not come last, either kind of your hopes for the semis are gone. Did you have sort of a huge target on the back of New York Breakers or Toronto Titans? What was the mindset coming into this match?
But for us, the only chance to go to the semifinal was at this point to beat New York Breakers, the only team we didn't met before. So for us, that was our purpose, our goal. Try to fight against them, try to beat them, and that was the only goal we had for this match.
Okay, thank you, Matteo. And I believe in your following match, your star swimmer Federica Pellegrini joined you. Was the team already in anticipation of her coming? Was everyone fired up in a way? Meaning, I mean, the team captain is about to arrive. Was that sort of a elevation of the team spirit?
Yeah, of course. From a psychological point of view, that was very good things for all the team. At the same time, I knew that her physical condition was not 100%, not even 50%. But again, I need her because she was very important for the team. Try to push all the team to give their best, and was great for us to have her join the team at that point.
Thank you, Matteo. Byron, what about for you guys? I mean, your first matches as a rookie team, you guys did amazing. And it seemed at this point that you guys were comfortably making it to the semis, at least for me and Bruno. What was your goal coming into this match kind of thing? Did you want to beat Energy Standard? Were you just wanting to come out of this with least fatigue on the athletes as possible? What was the mindset?
No, we had never set any target on Energy Standard. To be very blunt, they're too good. All right, we weren't going to beat them. So, but our goal coming into the whole contest was to make the semifinals. That was certainly what our goal was. And I had started before we even arrived in Budapest by sending emails to the whole team saying our match number 2. And remember, we arrived a week later, so the other guys had already had 2 matches, but we'd only had 1, and so this was our second match. And I had told everybody that our second match was the most important match of the entire series. If we did really well, we'll advance. If we did really poorly, we could be on the outside looking in. So everybody knew about it. When we landed, we had our team meeting. Actually, I guess we didn't have it right away. We had to quarantine for 36 hours, right? So, but once we were allowed to get together, we had dinner, and then we had a team meeting. And we talked about the second one being important. Obviously, the first meet was important as well, but the second one was the big one because we felt that we had to beat Aqua Centurions. And it did look like we could do that. But I had pointed out the meet. Matt's mentioned earlier, Ivan, that, they sat down and did their analysis. And I did the same thing. I sat down and pointed out the meet roughly on it, who would score how many points or whatever. And it looked like it was going to be a 10 or 20, possibly 30-point difference between New York and us. So we were going to have to be on our game to beat them. And if we did, I felt that we were looking pretty good. Same idea. Our fourth meet was going to be fairly tough to score a lot of team points, so we needed to really accelerate in our second meet and then our third meet. We rode a little bit of a wave of excitement after our first meet. I think you're right, Ivan. It looked promising, but promising doesn't make it happen. And we also had to realize that our second, third, and fourth meets were literally back to back to back. We had 3 meets in like 10 days or something. So we were going to be in trouble by the end, probably with tiredness. So we needed to really hit this second one big.
Yeah,
Okay,
definitely. It seems that all of you, all of the teams and you as coaches have different approaches coming to this 6th match. But starting with the discussion of the events, it is going to be the women's 100-meter butterfly. Tom, you mentioned before that Energy Standard had the possibility to play around with the lineups and experiment to see which is going to be the best option leading into those semis and final. And it seems that in the first event, we saw that with using Madeline Vantage instead of Sarah. I know that she had a little injury. Maybe that's why you use Madeline. But 1-2 for Madeline and Anastasia with 55-64 and 55-69 respectively. I mean, you had to be happy even though you replace, we can say, Sarah for Madeline, right?
Mm-hmm, absolutely. When Sarah was injured, obviously that's a big blow to the team to lose a team captain and also one of our strongest competitors. But like I said, based on what we had seen under the first match, we knew that Maddie was swimming really well. And I think, if I'm correct, that was the first time that Madeline had done a 100-meter butterfly short course meters from a flat start. She'd done the relay for us. Yeah. But she she swam with the LA Current last year, but I don't think she'd ever actually done a flat start 100 butterfly before. However, so for that reason, obviously she was a bit of an unknown for us in the first match. But based on how she did in the first match, we felt really comfortable knowing that giving Sarah the break and enabling her to take off the match to recover from the back injury. We felt really comfortable putting Maddie in there. And I think one of the things that we had tried to do in recruiting was identify areas where we may need coverage if people were sick or injured. And we have a lot of Canadian
Tom, you're kind of disappearing. You might want to check your Wi-Fi if you can hear us. But
Canadians, the breaststrokers, the goalies of the sport. And if your breaststroker is injured, who are you going to put in instead? And so for that reason, we'd always made sure to have backup people in place for either the breaststrokers, but also for the other athletes as well. And we really recruited around that in our last few spots. And that's why we had people like Andreas Sedlauskas, who didn't race a lot, but he was able to come in and sub out Felipe Lima when we needed him to. So.
Okay, thank you, Tom. And Tom, one more question to you is, I mean, Madeline Banich and Anastasia Skudai showed two results that honestly, the only two people that can challenge these two, it seems like, would be Beryl Gastabello and Sarah Sjostrom, but Sarah's already on energy standard. So my big question to you is, after this match, did you ever consider not making Sarah race the 100 fly? Because Sarah is such a multi-tool. She can swim the 2 free also. I believe she would have a magnificent 100 IM. Did you ever sort of consider, even though this is the Sarah's baby, you can say, the 100 fly, did you ever consider not putting her in this event in later matches just because of the amazing performance from Anastasia and Madeline?
I think that as a coach, you have to look at the athlete, all of the athletes individually, right? And so for Anastasia, which also that was a best time and a Belarusian record, and I think possibly a world junior record, if I'm remembering correctly, in the 100 meter butterfly.
It was indeed.
Yeah, and so obviously we were super pumped for those two. A pair of 55s off of what will be our second and third fastest athletes was outstanding. And we did talk to Sarah about not swimming that event in the next match, because what we were concerned about was, we never had any concerns about if we were putting her back in, she was going to be fit. But what we were worried about was, if we put her back in and Sarah swam 55.9, which is a good swim in the 100 butterfly, we would have a hard time justifying not putting the other two in from that point on. We did talk to Sarah about that, and like you said, 100 butterfly is her baby. She's Olympic champion. She's got the world record short course, world record long course. She's been numerous times world champion. There was no way she was going to not swim that event, and she made that very clear to us. And in the next match, she demonstrated that, no, you're not putting me in this event. And she swam faster in her next match in the 100 butterfly than she swam all season in the first season of ISL, just to make sure that we didn't have any doubts about who should be our number one.
Oh, wow. So that was sort of motivational for Sarah. Wow.
Absolutely, yeah.
Interesting.
And talking about, and you mentioned the doubts. I mean, Byron, I think that the Toronto Titans did not have at all any doubts in the women's 100-meter butterfly, because it seemed that always Louise and Rebecca Smith were the ones chosen to do this event, and they performed very well. Actually, Louise finished in third place, improving from their previous match with a 56.19, and Rebecca Smith finishing in sixth place. So this was a very important and good start for your team, right?
Apologies, Byron. I believe you're muted.
Yep, you got it. All right. Sorry about that, guys. Yeah, I mean, our depth isn't such that we can really replace a lot of swimmers. We're pretty well pigeonholed into who can do what. And that's just, in essence, because we're an expansion team, we didn't have a whole bunch of people already on the roster. So we really had to search high and low. And Louise was a giant signing for us. And she's obviously going to be in the butterfly. The one thing that's very interesting is she was very, very steady the whole time she was there. And I mentioned this briefly the last podcast. She had 4 different coaches in 4 different cities in the 2 months leading into the competition, or 2.5 months, just because of the lockdowns and the moving from California, moving to Sweden, she was even in Denmark for a short period of time, where Mats was, I think it was. And now she's going to school in England. So, I mean, it was a bit of a problem. And she will be the first one to admit that she didn't swim as fast as she could have, but she's such a world-class competitor. She was still able to get to the podium very, very often. So that was good for us. And Rebecca Smith is trying to make Canada's Olympic team in the 100 butterfly. So this was a good breakthrough for her to be consistently racing well and scoring near the top.
Thank you, Byron. And Mads, a question to you. The New York Breakers were represented by Svetlana Chimrova and Irina Surkova in this race. Svetlana swam at 57.12 and Irina swam at 56.44. Now, when you have a look at these two swimmers, Svetlana and Irina, they're both of them are butterflyers. Svetlana seems to be a little bit more on the 200 side, and Irina seems to be a little bit more on the 50 side. Yet, I believe for both of these girls, this was their best performance so far in the 100 fly. And my big question to you is, why? I mean, performance was great, but...
Yeah, I think they kind of they got into the routine of the meet. They kind of knew where to be and do the warm up right, and they were comfortable with their coaches. And I think they just adapted a little bit to the circumstances of the competition. And both of them were on a really good curve. Like Svetlana had swum a good 200 fly in match 2. Rena was kind of getting faster and faster in the 50. Like later on, she went on to even swim a 24 in the 50 fly in our semifinal. So she was on a really good curve of improving the whole time. So I think they just did really well. And the funny thing to note here is that they're both Russians. And Svetlana actually had the Russian record at this time going, I think the Russian record was 56.39. So Irina was really close to it. And that was a goal for her to beat it. And later she did. So it was like these two girls, they know each other. They're roughly the same age. So they're really good competitors, but we're also really good teammates. And I really think they brought the best out of each other in every 100 fly.
Thanks, Mads. And also a question. Arina seems to be a person who, even though she does do the 100 meters butterfly, she tends to kind of neglect this event a little bit in favor for the 50s. Do you think the fact that ISL makes these swimmers sometimes swim their off events, we're sometimes seeing burst out performances from them, and all of a sudden, they might be changing their speciality? Do you feel that way in any sense? And do you feel Arina might be focusing a little bit more on the 100 fly in later seasons?
Well, I think so. Like, I think that was the good thing about the format of the ISL, because a lot of swimmers actually had breakthrough swims in off events. Like Arina even swam a 50 backstroke, which I don't think she ever really did that before. And 3 weeks ago, she medaled at the Russian championships in the 50 backstroke because of what she did in ISL. So that way, I think it brought around some versatility in the athletes. For her, I think she is going to focus more on the 100 fly. Like, I think a lot of swimmers are looking towards the Olympics now, next summer, hopefully. And their 100 fly is definitely going to be her, I think, main event.
Thank you, Mads. And with this, let's move to our next event, the women's 200 meters backstroke. And my first question goes to you, Tom. You had Marie-Sophie Harvey and Emily Seabaum represent your team. Mm-hmm. Marie-Sophie swam at 2:07.75 and Emily swam at 2:02.1. My two questions to you are, first of all, was Emily at all devastated after this performance? Because from one point of view, this is a good time for her. But from another point of view, I mean, she didn't get first, she didn't get second. And Emily is such a superstar swimmer that she might not be happy with such a performance. And my other question to you is, Marie-Sophie Harvey, such an interesting swimmer. Sometimes it seems like she is a lot better at swimming the middle distance events like the 4 a.m., 2 a.m. But when you have a look at her backstroke, it seems like her 50 backstroke is better than her 2 backstroke. How did this happen?
The Canadian guys are laughing at me with your second question. So for Em, I don't think she was, she was very smart about the way she approached the ISL as a whole. She really tried to progress each match and just try to be better and better.
That's
Obviously,
Marie-Sophie Harvey, right?
No, for Emily.
For Emily, okay.
Yeah, she, anytime you have the opportunity to win and you don't, it's a little bit frustrating. But she knew that she had swum well, and she knew that she had managed herself well. So I don't think she was too upset with it. She just she's also experienced enough, Emily, that she just, it's like business as usual. You move on from it, and you take the lessons from the race and you just apply them to the next one. So I think for her, she was quite good at just kind of moving forward and not worrying too much about what was going to happen next. But, okay. And then for Mary, So I've like these guys are giggling. Like I've coached Mary for I don't even know how many years now, in various capacities. I started working with her when she was 14, and so I've seen her at many different points in her career, and she's just a really talented athlete in many ways. In the with hindsight, she actually just missed the Canadian record in the 50 backstroke in the final. And that was after we put her in to save Emily for the medley relay into the 50. But I think, she's versatile enough she's really, she really is an IM swimmer, 200 IM and 400 IM. And if you're one of the best IM swimmers, you have to be able to swim every event. And I think the best 400 IMers in the world can swim 200s of every stroke, and the best 200 IMers in the world can swim hundreds and maybe 50s of every stroke. And so you see that out of many of those athletes. You get anyone who's like Katinka is a great example. Katinka's obviously the best 200 and 400 IMer, women's 200 and 400 IMer, and she can go toe to toe with anyone. She's also the Olympic gold medalist in the 100 backstroke. So it's not uncommon to see that. I think a lot of it is for the answer to why Mary's 50 might be better than her 200 in the backstroke is the biggest skill she has in backstroke is her underwater kick. And so she really used that, and she learned to use that well during the ISL in the 50. And in the 200, it was mainly about managing her effort and not overdoing the first part of the event, of the match, so that she had energy for the rest of it, because we did race her a lot in almost every match that we did.
Yeah.
I guess what I'm saying is
Tom.
I don't think we saw her best 200 backstroke at ISL. I think she could be a lot better. In fact, I think she has been a lot better, but
yeah, she has been 159 high actually.
No, Mary's 200 backstroke.
I don't know. I'm sorry. I was talking about Emily. Sorry.
Yeah.
Tom, I think it's a huge testament to you as a coach, the versatility of Mary. And I think you're very humble in saying that this is quite common to see, because in reality, seeing someone who is good at 400, 200 IM and a 50 back along with a 2 back is something quite unique.
Thanks, Evan.
Interesting taper for that, I'll tell you.
Definitely.
That being said, go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead, Ivan. Yeah.
No, Bruno, take it.
Okay. Thank you. So yeah, I mean, I think this is the same question that Ivan was going to ask you. I mean, having Lisa and Kylie Moss, it seems that the backstrokers, talking about the females, for the Toronto Titans were the strong part of that team. And actually, Lisa took here 24 points because of the jackpot rule. So my question will be, do you think that this was a critical point, where the team, and especially you, think that it was possible maybe to defeat Energy Standard, or maybe to secure only that second place?
Yeah, I mean, this was critical. Absolutely. No question about it, right? We outscored New York Breakers 31-0. That was a giant step forward. And when we had done the points predictions and everything, we didn't quite understand. I'll be honest that we didn't quite realize what the jackpot was going to be like before we got to Budapest. And how many points were going to be involved and how many swing points. So I knew in the 200 backstroke, there was going to be a lot of jackpot points coming the way of the winner. So the question was, could our women beat Emily Seebohm? Emily Seebohm's been on the world elite stage now for, I think it's almost 15 years. It's a staggering amount of time. And so she's a veteran, and she's not going to make any mistakes. You're going to have to outswim her and basically outbeat her and make a proper race plan. And Lisa Bratton swam out of her mind. I mean, she's a good 200 backstroker, and I didn't know her before we recruited her, and just looked at her times and thought she could add. And she put on a move on the second 50 in this 200 backstroke. The other girls were caught with their pants down, and they couldn't respond. Kylie Moss came swimming back very strongly, couldn't quite catch her, but was still able to get second place and beat Emily. So it was a giant step forward for our team, no question about it. And the excitement on the team now, we're only 2 events into the meet, and the excitement on our team now is that, hey, we're in a driver's seat here. We can really make this happen if we can continue to put the pedal to the metal here.
Oh yeah, thank you, Byron. It seemed at that point that it was going to be a close race between you and Energy Standard. But with that
At
being
that
said,
point,
let's.
yeah, you're right. Yeah, at that point, I was back up in Energy Standard. I kind of knew Energy Standard had a little bit more in the tank coming down the pike. The first part of the meet was our best part of the meet, so we had to really make hay.
After the first day, though, yeah, and we'll get into it on why. But you guys seemed very strong. But with that being said, let's move to the next event, and it is the male 200 breaststroke. And my first question goes to you, Matteo. Matteo, you had Fabio Scozzoli and Nicola Martinieri represent you in this race. Fabio swam at 2:13.15, and Nicola swam at 2:09.05. First of all, every time I see these two names together, it's really cool to see, because it's like the veteran and the youngster, the past, the good established present of the Italian breaststroke and the future with Nicola. It's very nice to see. But my big question to you is, number one, you guys seem like you kind of lack a 200 breaststroker. Do you feel like this event is sort of a hole that needs to be covered in a way? Or are you confident that Nicola might improve before next season? And my other question to you is regarding Fabio. I mean, Fabio is an excellent breaststroker. There's nothing to take away from him. But it seemed like the 200 wasn't quite working out for him. Would you ever consider getting Fabio out of this race? Just, yes, he might be your best 200 breaststroker, but maybe you could save him for the relays and for the future sprint breaststroke events, and maybe put someone like Fabio Santi in this event just to cover it. Did you ever consider this?
I mean, at this point, you know exactly what their athletes are capable of. And we knew that Marco Koch was able to swim 200. And for us, for our athlete, there was no way to try to get some points, because even if Martinenghi or Fabio was trying to swim their best, at least is not below under 206. So in any way, they will be jackpotted. And for us, the 50 breast later on that day was more important, and we had a lot of chances to get a lot of points. So at this point, we said just swim easy, swim this 200 breast easy, because there is no point to waste effort, waste energy in this 200 breast. We already knew the result. The result was jackpotted, so that was why. About Niccolò, I'm pretty sure that the 200, of course, for him is the event that doesn't. For him, it's very difficult to manage. But he's a very talented guy. He's able to swim 209 long course. I need just to be more confident with this event, and in the future we'll be able to swim too low in a short course. And about Fabio is different. For him, it's very difficult to swim it. But again, for us, it was very important to swim the 50 breaths fast later. And at this point, there was no reason to try to swim fast the 200 breast.
Thank you, Matteo. And thank you so much for actually opening up about telling one of your swimmers to go a little easy on an event. I believe that this is something that more coaches should adopt, and maybe more coaches should be open about, because it's an absolutely valid strategy, and I don't understand why it's frowned upon. If the athlete doesn't have a shot at this race, but has a better shot at a following race, let him breast it. I totally agree with you. But with that being said, a question to you, Byron. You had Eric Pearson represent you in this race, and Anton McKee. Eric swam at 2:03.36 and Anton swam at 2:01.65. Two excellent results, but you were kind of put in the shoes that Energy Standard was put into in the previous event we discussed. That, except reversed. That you had two amazing swimmers that potentially had the opportunity of winning this race, but ended up not winning it, coming second and third. Were you disappointed at all after this event? Were they disappointed at all?
No, because Marco Koch was the reigning world record holder, but full marks for Anton, all right, and Eric. Eric really rose. I don't think a lot of people knew who Eric Peterson was from Sweden. He really had a great ISL. I mean, he was on the podium a lot for a guy that really not a lot of people know about. So we were quite pleased with him. I think he was the last guy we signed, so it worked out really well. But Anton was great. I mean, he had a breakout swim as the first meet that we had. Dropped his best time by a couple of seconds, and all of a sudden became an instant player on the big scene. I mean, 2:01 for breaststroke is one hell of a swim. And he came to me and we talked about it, and he said, put me in the lane right next to Marco, depending on who was going to be assigned what lanes or whatever. And he says, I want to go toe-to-toe. I want to race the best guy in the world. I want to go for the world record. And, he went right after Marco, and I thought it was a great race. And, he couldn't quite keep up on the last 50, but he was really within a couple of tenths on at the end of the 150 meters. So, for a guy that actually quit swimming for a couple of years, worked on Wall Street in financial industry and decided, I miss swimming too much and came back, it's a hell of a story. And we were pretty happy to get second and third. And one thing I'm going to say as an aside very quickly, Ivan, is that, I've been coaching a long time, but watching some of these guys swim breaststroke now, I mean, I think Marco and Anton took one stroke on the first length. Those are, people that are listening to this podcast, if they didn't watch the races, they should somehow try to see if they can find them and watch these guys swim. It's a whole different breaststroke now. You got two different kinds of breaststroke. You got the 200-meter breaststrokers and you got the 50-meter Adam Peaty power type breaststrokes. But these guys have such phenomenal efficiency when they're swimming. It was beautiful to watch. It really was.
Thank you, Byron.
I totally agree with you, Byron, there. The efficiency of Marco and Anton there, I mean, it was unbelievable. But Mats, Byron mentioned before Marco Koch, the former world record holder. Actually, he broke it at the Windsor World Championships in 2016. He almost broke the world record that is now held by Kirill Prigora of Russia, to the below 58, his second fastest performance of his career and third of all time. So I think that you and the team especially must have been pretty happy. But I wanted to also ask you this question. On the other hand, James Wilby, who last year on the international stage, talking about long course, was like the rising star, we can say, from England behind Adam Peaty, in my opinion, have a very disappointing ISL season in general. What will you address to this?
Well, I'll say for James, I think James is a long course swimmer, right? Like he's really good in long course, and there are different types of swimmers, and James is really good at the swimming in the surface. And many times we saw James swimming both the 100 and 200, where the swimming speed was actually like right up there with the very best in the world. But when it comes to short course, there are some things about details around underwater starts and turns where he was not quite at the level of the other world-class competitors. But I will say, like, James is a phenomenal swimmer, but he is just better suited for long course with his skill set right now. But really, like, a great teammate, a great guy, and like a really good swimmer. And I'll say for the other side of the coin, like with Marco, like I was lucky enough to work closely with Marco. I coached Marco at every practice, and I worked with a few years with Reggie Pedersen, the world record holder, long course 200 breast for women. And he had a lot of the same thoughts around breaststroke and efficiency that she did, about pullouts, about efficiency, about counting strokes. And Marco did some stuff that I'd never seen before. Like in practice, he would do a pullout to 35 meters in a long course pool. And I was like flabbergasted. I was like, how did you do that? I've never seen that. And I coached for many years as well. And it's like, it opened my eyes to a new type of breaststroke. And this is a 30-year-old guy from Germany, right? And really a model professional, but he brings something extra to this 200 breaststroke game. It's really phenomenal to watch his efficiency.
Thanks, Matt. It is indeed. It's stunning to see these people glide so far and so effortlessly. A question towards kind of all of you. Do you believe that this split between the breaststroke that's happening right now for the power breaststroker and for the more efficient breaststroker, will this continue splitting up and we'll have totally different breaststrokers for the 200 and for the sprint events? Or do you feel like at some point people will start picking up certain aspects from the efficient technique, certain aspects from the power technique, and sort of merging it all together once again?
It's a great question,
That
Ivan.
might be.
I think short course, yes. Short course, you'll see a split for sure, because you can really use that high rev of Adam Peaty and the power. And remember how, everybody realizes how strong Adam Peaty is. He's got arms as big as my thighs, I think. And you can do that. But long course, I think it's a little bit different story. The efficiency is still going to be more important than just pure power. And so I think for a 50, for sure, you're going to see the split. But for the 100, you might see long course where you can see the same guy like Pagoda or some of the others succeed in the 100 and the 200. Long term, maybe we'll see a little bit of a split, but I think short course for sure we'll see a split.
Thank you. I believe one person that we dearly missed at the ISL was Anton Chubkov. This is another guy with incredible efficiency, and
Right.
seeing him face off Marco would be such a treat. But with that being said, let's move to the next event, and it is the male 50-meter freestyle. And my first question goes to you, Matteo. You had Alessandro Meresi and Sebastian Jabo performing this event for you. Two excellent results, 21.44 and 20.98 for Sebastian Jabo. Were you satisfied with this performance? And my other question to you is, Sebastian Jabo, when he does freestyle and when he does sprint butterfly, it almost seems like he wants it a little bit too much, and he ends up skipping a little bit of water on his pool. And it is particularly evident, in my opinion, when he races some of the big names like Flo or Caleb. It seems like he wants it too bad. Do you see that at all as well, or is that just me?
Well, of course, when you race Floran, of course, you will feel like more pressure, because, he's one of the best guy in that event. So, of course, you feel pressure, and maybe you miss something about technique or about pulling. About Seb, he's a great guy. He's a great competitor. He has huge talent, and his power, his strength is phenomenal. In freestyle, but even in fly, maybe his stroke rate is very high, so he could take a slower stroke rate. But again, it's a 50 meters, and if he's comfortable with that kind of swim, and I'm not the guy telling him to swim in a different way. About Alessandro, it's not his best event. He was swimming quite faster the first match. And unfortunately, I know that if Florent was swimming 20.5, 20.6, it was about hundreds to get jackpotted, and it was jackpotted for, I think, 100 or 200. So that was a little bit shame, but they did great. I didn't expect anything else.
Okay,
Yeah,
thank you, Matteo.
totally. And actually, you mentioned Flo, Manatu, and Tom. I mean, I feel that since Flo came back from his journey doing handball, professional handball, I feel that every time he steps on the blocks, and there is a lot of pressure, or I would say, when he feels that he's comfortable, he swims freely and performs almost 6 years ago, when he was breaking all those world records, when he was in his best shape. But every time that there is a lot of pressure, or other swimmers that can potentially challenge him, as in the final or semifinals, it seems that something happens with Florent. What can you tell us about that? And on the other hand, how was the performance here of Simonas Bilis? I mean, he didn't swim a lot during this season individually, but were you happy with this?
Yeah, last season we had the same basic four athletes, with Florent, Ben Proud, Simonas Bilis, and Sergei Shevtsov. And between those four athletes, especially using Ben and Flo in the skins every time, they were quite valuable and quite important to the team, because we knew that we had to protect the performances on the freestyle skins in the back of the meet. That put Flo and Ben in a very different situation than it did this season. This season, with the skins being decided on the medley relays, and I don't think we ever saw men freestyle. We'd have put him in became much more valuable as relay swimmers for us. On the women's side, Pernille Bloom, same, she's a fantastic athlete and a fantastic 50 freestyler, but for the team, part of the rules of ISL is that, if you swim one individual event, you count as an individual event athlete. And so trying to manage that, the balance of the entire team becomes quite different when you don't know what the skins are going to be going into the match.
Of course.
So that's kind of one of the reasons that Simonas didn't race more, because he's a great relay guy. He did well for us on the relays, and like Matteo had said, we knew that with obviously Flo was swimming every match that we were swimming because he's on our team, and we knew that if he was going 20.5, he would maybe jackpot a lot of the athletes, and so it didn't really behoove us to use up somebody for that spot that, we could have used somebody else who was just going to get jackpotted anyway. I think with regards to Flo, I think his mindset is a bit different now. He's been an Olympic champion. He's won a lot of medals. He's done a lot in his career, and I don't know if he's I don't know. I think his motivation is different than it used to be. Coming into this particular 50 freestyle, he felt quite good, and he wanted to really go a good time. But ironically, he did the first 25 and didn't think he was going very good, so he kind of shut it down, and he still went 20.5. So, sometimes those experienced athletes have a really good sense, and sometimes they maybe don't, because that could have been a real fast swim. But wasn't as fast as maybe he could have gone in that situation. So I think sometimes they just maybe they misjudge themselves, and like Ivan has already said, sometimes they just try a little bit too hard. I think for Florent, when he's relaxed and he's just he feels that he doesn't have that pressure, it's a bit easy for him, easy on the feel of the water, and then I think when he tries to put it into another gear, he doesn't quite have, because remember, he's been only a few races long course still, and he hasn't really been back for that long. He doesn't have a huge amount of racing experience at this point, especially with the fact that nobody raced for a year. So I think he's still figuring out how and where to put the emphasis on his power and his speed, because that's something that has changed quite a lot for him as he's come back from handball. He gained a lot of muscle during that period. He's a lot heavier now than he used to be, and he swims a little bit differently than he used to. It's a lot more power, and I think he's not quite aware yet of exactly where to fine tune those performances when he wants to get 100% out of himself.
Thanks, Tom. So in other words, you believe Flo might have become a little bit too muscular and too strong for his own good, and now he's having difficulties with really knowing how much of his strength to put for an optimal pool, right?
I don't know if it's for his own good. I think that he can be faster than he was before because of his new strength. I just think he hasn't quite figured out how to do that yet. He's on a journey, as all of us are, and trying to be better. And I think he used to, as an athlete, he swam many events, 50 breast, 50 back, 50 fly, 50 free. And I think now he's really just focused on the 50 free. He does do the 100 as well sometimes, and he's been pretty good in the 100, but really he's just about the 50 freestyle. And I think trying to focus on that, it made sense to gain a little bit of muscle and be a little bit stronger, more powerful. But again, like, that journey isn't complete yet. So he has to figure out just the final pieces to put together on that.
Thank you, Tom. And a question towards you, Byron. Byron, you had Blake Pironi and Michael Chadwick represent you in the 50 freestyle. Blake swam at 21:53 and Michael swam at 21:49. These two results are decent in the field of 50 freestylers. But my big question to you is, you actually had a bit of room to play around with the lineup here, because from one point of view, you have Andrei Govorov, who's an excellent 50 freestyler, maybe not short course, but I believe he would have been very close to these results, probably right around 21.5. And from the other side, you have someone like Sergey Vesikov, who's also an excellent 50 freestyler. And Michael Chadwick and Blake Peroni are people that you can really use in multiple events, whereas someone like Andrei Govorov, it's really the 250s for them, and that's it. Why did you decide to use Blake and Michael instead of Andrei here, and maybe even Vesikov?
Great question. The problem with Andrei was he wasn't sure where he was at. In talks with him and his coach that came to the meet with him, is he'd been out of the water for 4 months and out of the weight room for 4 months during the lockdown. So he felt he was just actually starting to get the feel of the water back. And I wanted to see basically where Michael was. Michael was a very important signing for us. And, we kind of promised him the sprinting events. So I wanted to see where he was at in the second meet here and what he was going to do. Blake, we tried in the 50 freestyle. He's not a 50 freestyle guy. He's more of a 100, 200 guy. And you'll notice that after this meet, we didn't put Blake in the 50 free anymore because it was an experiment that I don't think it failed necessarily, but it was something we needed to try. But I think it just tired him out, and getting jackpotted or not scoring a lot of points wasn't worth it. So he also had to help us in the relays. So for Andrei, we did put Andrei in the 50 free in the fourth match when we were able to sort of ascertain where he was, and he was getting a little bit stronger. Like you said, he's not very good short course. He can't turn. He surfaces at the backstroke flags. I mean, I've never seen anybody surface that soon in a 50-meter freestyle, but long course he would be definitely better. And Sergey, at the time, we didn't want to overuse him. We were using him. We were a short butterflyer. We didn't have a sprint butterflyer, so Sergey had to do that, and he really hadn't done that in about 5 years. So we wanted to save it so he had the medley. He wouldn't be tired for the medley relays. So it was basically sort of management of what we had among our team. But eventually we did put Andrei in the 50 freestyle. He didn't go much faster than what those boys did, but it allowed us then to save Blake for the relays.
And Byron,
Thank you.
Just a quick
Thank you,
question.
Byron.
Maybe the three options could have been, as you said, Andrei, Michael, and Blake. But what about Brent? He's recently come back, and I've seen great 50 freestyle videos from him in long course, obviously. But with his experience, maybe that 50 freestyle could have been the key. Would
Yeah.
you agree?
No, that's a great question as well. And again, there's a guy that hadn't swum in 8 years. He had retired, after his medal at the Olympics. So we're talking, he had not raced in 8 years other than I think he had one little meet locally and one tier meet in the United States in Phoenix, long course. So he really didn't know where he was at in terms of any of his races, actually. So as was mentioned by Tom, is that if you put someone in a 50 freestyle, then all of a sudden you don't have them for another event. In other words, you're only allowed 12 people. So I was going to have to take somebody out of a bunch of events, and I couldn't afford to take someone like a Blake Peroni out of the 100 and the 200 freestyle because Brent just couldn't swim the 200 freestyle. He wasn't preparing for it. So we did again move the lineup around by our third and fourth meet, and we did get Brent into the 50 freestyle where he finished fourth in one of the contests. So I felt that was important to try to do and to reward Brent for doing a great job for us. He helped one of our relays do a great job in a couple of meets, and every single meet he was a real strong competitor and just so positive, just oozing leadership. He was our co-captain and with Kylie Moss, and he was a great addition to our team, and quite glad he came out of retirement. And I'll just share something with you that I don't think I'm speaking out of turn, but at the end of the competition, when everybody was getting ready to go home, Brent addressed the whole team and said he wasn't sure if he was smart coming out of retirement or not, but he said, now this seals it. I had one of the best times, and I've enjoyed swimming more than I've ever swum in my life. He says, I want to keep on swimming. This has been a great decision to be here at the ISL. So that was quite a nice thing for him to say.
Thank you, Byron. Wow, that's actually very, very heartwarming for an ISL official to hear also. But with that being said, let's move to the next event, and it is the male 400 freestyle. And my first question goes to you, Matteo. You had Altamir Melolouise and Mihailo Romanchuk race for you. Altamir swam at 3:42.45 and Mihailo swam at 3:39.63. And my big question to you here is regarding Mihailo, because it seemed like, let's put it this way, it was quite evident before the start of the ISL that Mihailo is going to be a provider of points only in the 400 freestyle. Were you at all disappointed of him getting third here, or were you satisfied with this event, with this performance? Because he was damn close to the Ukrainian national record, and he actually ended up beating it later on. Could you weigh in on that?
I mean, it's difficult for me to be disappointed when the athlete himself and his coach were disappointed about the result. So he's a great guy. Even Petro, his coach, is amazing person, and I know all this journey, all this journey that they did their best. They was trying to swim as fast as he can. And honestly, from my point, I had nothing to ask more than what they did during these events. So I was happy. I was a little bit like sad that got the third places, but I knew every time he was jumping in the water that it was giving him his 100%. So nothing to regret about his performances.
Sure, when you have a swimmer give it his all, you can't be mad. I totally agree. But I had actually a couple of discussions with Petro, the coach of Mihailo, because I was very interested in his 400 individual medley performance. Because what typically happens is his 400 individual medley time could be calculated by just doubling his 200 individual medley time. And I addressed Petro this question, and he actually said that Mihailo is a unique swimmer in the sense that he can't actually switch to an anaerobic pace. He physically doesn't have the capacity of getting a lot of lactic acid in his body whatsoever. Do you feel like this is something they could potentially work on and improve, or do you think that there are unique swimmers like Mihailo that just don't have the anaerobic capacity whatsoever? They're purely aerobic swimmers.
Honestly, from a metabolic point of view, I'm not sure about that, because honestly, I don't know him so well. I did see him swimming at training, but what I can say is about his technique. Usually like have this long stroke, this very slow stroke rate, is pulling like very slowly all training, all the training. So that technique is a technique for a 400 pace, for 800 pace, for a 1500. Honestly, for my point of view, it's very difficult for him to improve his stroke rate, because he do not do this during training, in practice. So his pace is basically is set up for long distance events. About metabolic point of view, I think he could train an aerobic with an aerobic phase and even be faster in the 200. But again, his mindset is for totally different events.
Of course. Thank you. Thank you, Matteo.
And Matt, a question for you here. You had Felix Albo, who was I would say a breakout swimmer for the breakers, even though he was a rookie this year, and also Brendan Smith. But also talking about the mindset that Matteo mentioned before. Previously, Felix had swum at 3:37, and in my opinion, it helped a lot that he was swimming on his own. He had not a lot of pressure on this time. I mean, he had Danas Rapsis, one of the fastest guys in this race in history. So do you think that having Danas Rapsis on his side affected him, or what was it?
Well, it's kind of hard to say, because we in the second match, Felix had a breakthrough. He broke his PB by 4 seconds and swam a 3:37, which was incredible, and he was very happy. And we knew that going into this race, it would be hard to like recreate that, because Rapsis has been a 3:33. So even though 3:37 is good, 3:33 is quite a bit faster. And we also knew that Rapsis likes to go out fast, and that is not really Felix's style. Like, he is more of a steady pace kind of guy. So we knew that he would be behind after 100 meters, probably by quite a bit. So it was Don Wagner who coached him, and I know that they talked a lot about like holding on to the race and being in the race with Rapsis, and after 100 meters seeing where you're at, and then basically race whoever else is around you, because it is going to be a catching race to catch Rapsis. So that way, I think it affected him in a way that he knew that he was going to be behind after 100 meters, but he did a good job of racing everybody else. And I think it was a decent race. Of course, we hope to see the 3:37 again, but that's another thing. When you have this big breakout swim, it's not easy to recreate like a couple of days later. So all in all, I thought this was pretty good for us, and he scored some good points for us here. And he had a really good race with Romanchuk, where he pretty well for us. He won the race with Romanchuk, and we were pretty happy with this performance, as I remember it.
Thank you. And the other thing is, like, even if he went 3:37, it would have changed nothing.
No,
would have been the same point distribution.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mads. And a question to you, Tom. Obviously, a great performance from Danas Rapsis, 3:35.49, and also Zir Gregor, 3:46.60. And my two questions to you are, how would you explain the variability in the performance of Danas Rapsis? Because it seems like one day he's on top of the world, the other day he's struggling to break that 3:40 barrier. And another question to you regarding Zirk is, we actually had quite a bit of response from the fans saying it's strange that they have these people on the team that not necessarily ever score a lot of points. But in my opinion, Zirk Grigor is a swimmer of great value because he can cover multiple events and you don't lose any points in these events. He always manages to make the qualification time. So could you please elaborate on a little bit for our viewers on the importance of swimmers like Zirk Gregor?
Yes, Gregor, he's been swimming with our squad for a few years now, and obviously he's not a superstar in the way that Sara or Chad are, but even and coming into the first season of ISL, we weren't sure whether or not he would really have a spot on our team. But as we went through the first season last year, it became evident very quickly that having people like Gregor, who can cover off many events, is extremely important. In the same way that Byron and I were just talking about the 50 free and how that limits your ability to put in other athletes. I can't remember how many of the events he swam this past season, but I know that Gregor has swum the 100 fly, the 200 fly, the 200 free, the 400 free, the 100 back, the 200 back. I think we didn't end up putting him in the 409, but it was close. And he's also split on the relay. He's done the 4x100 freestyle relay and the 4x100 medley relay for the team. And as you said, generally speaking, he's swimming at a pretty good clip in those. In this particular 400, he wasn't as fast as he has been, but he had done the 100 butterfly individually previous to that, and he was, I think, just a few tenths off his best time. And then he also did the 4x100 freestyle relay only a few minutes before this race. And looking back, there was no other 400 freestylers in that race, obviously. And he actually split what was the best time in that moment. He was 47.7 in the relay before this race. But he ended up, by the end of the ISL season this year, he was 46s in those races, and I think he went 3:43 in the 400 free, as well as best time in the 200 butterfly, swam the 200 freestyle. So he's been really valuable for the squad to just be that guy that can switch around. And obviously, like you said, he's not necessarily scoring a lot of points, but they are valuable points. And sometimes it's valuable to have somebody that is able to kind of stem the flow of losses. If we're forced to put somebody in there who is going to miss the qualification time or something like that, that would hurt the squad. And if we were forced to put in somebody who maybe could swim but would hurt themselves for other events coming up that would also hurt our total point score. So a lot of the time, the ISL lineups, it's about maximizing the whole team points, not necessarily taking that snapshot of an individual event or an individual performance and trying to maximize theirs. So it's quite a challenge. One of the things that we have tried to do with our lineups is we present the lineups to the athletes, but we always ask the team for feedback and also try to make them see that just swapping one person out creates a whole cascade of changes. And actually this meet for us was an excellent example of that. We actually had our second 400 freestyler, Max Litchfield, who was sick at this match. He didn't race. And because of the way that all the lineups changed, that actually meant that we ended up putting Matt Grievers into the 4x100 medley as a butterfly swimmer, which he hadn't swum the 100 butterfly. He didn't even remember the last time he swam 100 butterfly. And so those kind of the way that the lineups work with these matches is that, everything affects everything else. So those guys that can spot in anywhere are really valuable. With regards to Donis, I think like many athletes, he thrives on racing. He usually has raced quite a lot in his seasons, and in coming into the ISL, he really hadn't got that racing background behind him. In the first match, he really faded quite hard in the 400, and I think in this match he was a lot smarter in the way that he swam it. He didn't go out he was out fast, but he wasn't out quite so hard, and he managed it a little bit better. And I think that he just wasn't quite fine-tuned right now. He does not usually work with us, he doesn't usually train with us, so I don't have a big insight into where he was at in his training situation, but it was pretty obvious to everybody watching that he wasn't quite as fine-tuned and wasn't quite as reliable as he perhaps could have been.
Thank you, Tom. And a question to you as a professional coach with years of experience. How much faster is Donis Rapsis going to get on the 4-free if ISL introduces counters?
I was hoping we could avoid I thought we were talking about match 6 here.
Yes, but still. Sorry, I could not avoid this joke.
he obviously, you know what? So in the next match, for the context, in the next match, he was leading by a long way. I think he probably would have been, if he had not miscounted, he probably would have been about the same time as this, maybe 3:35 again. But
it looked like a 3:34 swim. He was on pace.
I think that's ambitious. I'm gonna say that I said to him that was ambitious because he did stop at 350. Luckily, he was far enough ahead that he was able to get the win. And I think that although his ego was bruised, he ended up, it was very, very close. I can't remember who he was racing. It might have been Krasnik. I can't remember.
I think it was, and everybody was watching Rapsis stop. And the swimmer who swims for us, Alex Krasnik, he stopped as well because he thought, "Oh my God, if Rapsis has stopped, I better stop."
Right?
He really hurt Krasnik. He faded to 4th.
That hurt a lot. That hurt Rapsis a lot more than just swimming a 400 free would have.
Mentally, you're saying?
No, physically. Like, that's a hard way to swim a race. There's a reason you don't stop and take a break in the middle of a race. It's because it's not the most efficient way to do it. And that really hurt him. And I don't think he really I honestly feel like he didn't physically recover from that because, as Byron has said, and again, it was in context, Energy Standard and Toronto Titans did the next 3 matches in a row. And then Energy Standard went on and did the first semifinal. So we had actually 4 matches in a row. And I don't think that Rapsis really had time to recover from the effort of that broken 400 freestyle. But yeah, he luckily he did get the win on it because I think it would have been a little bit more difficult for him emotionally if he had lost. But yeah.
Thank you, Tom.
And he can laugh about it now.
Yes, exactly.
Let's move to the next events. It is the female 4x100 medley relay. And Byron, my first question goes to you. Your team was represented by Fish, Smith, Udiet, and Bratton, B team, and your A team was Coleman, Hansen, Wog, and Maas. First of all, congratulations. What a victory. Were you at all expecting this? Because energy standards seemed unbeatable in that medley relay. And sort of how ecstatic was the team after this? Because after this performance, it seemed like Toronto Titans have a shot, even on the second day, because you get to pick the skins and,
Yeah. No, it was huge. I mean, we were jumping up and down, going crazy, right? There's always this small little asterisk that I made sure I didn't mention, but it was sort of out there, and that was the fact that Sarah Sostrom didn't swim the relay. I mean, if she's in the relay, they're 2 seconds faster, and we don't win. But you want to know what? You take the opportunity. What's the old adage? When opportunity knocks, you open the door, and we did. We had that opportunity, and the women may not have risen to win, but they did. They swam amazing. Kylie led off in the backstroke with the best time I think she's done in a couple of years, and that's after a 200 back and a 50 back before that. So to be able to get down and put that kind of effort in really set it up nicely over the energy standard superstar Emily Seebohm. So we had an 8/10 lead I think at that point, and the rest of the swimmers just stayed really with it. Kelsey Wog swam the breaststroke, and of course they have that young little superstar on energy standard, Pilato, and Kelsey didn't panic when Pilato went out like a bat out of hell, if I want to use that term, and caught her by the 50, but then Kelsey pulled away again, and Louise Hansen swam a very good split compared to her flash start. And then on the end, Michelle Coleman's been doing medley relays off of Louise Hansen for Sweden for years, so they were very comfortable with one another, and she was able to hold off Femke Hemsker, who's a world-class athlete, and of course Michelle knows her very well, and hold her off and win the gold medal. I mean, when they touched, literally our entire team jumped up and almost hit the ceiling. We were so ecstatic, and it was great. I mean, and we stayed real close in points to energy standard that whole first day. It was a hell of a first day for us. Absolutely.
Thank you, Byron. And yeah, Louise Hansen, 55:34. What a performance by her. She seems like the swimmer that really raises to the occasion when it comes to relays, right?
Certainly does. I mean, I don't know her that well. I got to know her obviously during this entire competition. I talked to David Salo, the Japanese coach, the Tokyo team coach, because he had coached her at university, and he said that they always relied her on for the relays. And she did the same thing in the freestyle relay. She was able to come up even if she was tired and do a really good split on the 4x1 free when we needed her, or more importantly, the mixed relay. So yeah, it was great for her to do that. I think she's got a lot more in the tank. I think she's already talked about next year and how she's looking forward to it. And I think she'll be in a little more stable situation, and she'll be even faster next year for us.
And just a quick question. You get that victory in the medley relay. Did any of the swimmers immediately after the race approached to you and said, I want backstroke to be the skins races? I want breaststroke to be it? Because backstroke and breaststroke for you were until that moment the two best strokes, I would say.
Yeah, they were, although our 50 breaststrokers weren't as fast as our 200 breaststrokers. So Kelsey's our breaststroker, and she knew that it was never going to be the 50 breaststroke. Pretty well everybody on the team felt it was going to be the 50 backstroke for the skins. I had to think about it just simply because and this is a position when you're coaching your own athlete on the team, and Kylie trains with me, that I didn't want to jump at it right away because I didn't want to be accused of favoritism. You've got to make sure that you're looking at it very logically, not emotionally. And you've got to look at what's your best chance, just in case maybe the second entry would be better or whatever. But once you crunched all the numbers, it became pretty obvious that we should go with the 50 backstroke. So we did.
Perfect.
Thank you, Byron.
And Tom, a question for you. Energy Standard did have a very decent and good performance. Emily Seebohm splitting, doing 57 double low, Benedetta 104 low, Anastasia once again doing 55, and Fimke doing a 51 high. But you didn't get that victory. You did not get to choose the skins races. Were you expecting this at all? Was this part of maybe we can lose the medley relay, or was a big surprise for you guys?
It certainly wasn't a surprise for us to not win this relay, because it's traditionally been an extremely weak event for our team. Last year, we struggled mightily with this event, the women's medley relay. And this season, we put a lot of effort in recruiting into patching up some of those gaps. Obviously, we recruited in Benedetta and also our B team in this one, our B team breaststroker Bria Larson, as well as Madeline Bannock and Penele Bloom, all new recruits for us into into our medley relays and into our team overall this year. So it wasn't a surprise for us to not win. I don't think we'd ever had won this relay. In fact, last year we mostly finished 6th and 8th. But we did. I was free. We were trying to learn and fine tune our processes. And what we saw here, and I think it was a really important moment actually for our team overall, was two things on our A team, and we were pretty sure that on paper Emily and Benedetta were going to be on our A team in our most important matches. But what we saw was Emily had swum the 200 backstroke and the 50 backstroke, and the 50 backstroke she was good, but a 57.0, we know that she's capable of a lot more than a 57. And so we made the call after this to take her out of the 50 backstroke, and that's where Mary Sophie Harvey ended up getting that spot. We made the call to take her out to get a few more tenths out of her, because again, we also saw that Bene has a lot of energy and a lot of power, but she doesn't have a lot of experience. And for her, going in 0.8 behind, she's going to try to catch up, and she overswims that first 50. So if we, by swapping out that 50 backstroke earlier in the match, giving Emily just a bit more time from the 200 to recover, getting her into 56 mid territory, that means that Bene's not overswimming the first 50, and I think she ended up splitting a 102 high by the end of the season, which puts the whole relay in a completely different category. And we ended up then, obviously, as Byron said, we were missing Sara, so we didn't know where that was going to go. And this was Fem's first match, so she had been out with the coronavirus, so this was her first match and the first day of competition for her since having the virus. So again, we weren't sure where she was going to be at. She's always been a strong relay competitor all her career, especially for us last season. So we felt confident in her, but we had no idea where she was going to be.
Thank you,
so
Tom.
Yeah, so we got a lot out of those relays.
And in retrospective, I know it's a mean question to ask to a coach, but if you had the knowledge you possess now, would you potentially swap out Shoban Jorge out of the 400 freestyle and put her to finish off this relay? Maybe she would have been a little bit faster than Femke in this final 100 freestyle, and that could have allowed you to take the W.
No, because who would we put in to the 400 freestyle? And second, I don't know how much faster, if any, she would have been. If you look at Siobhan's splits on the relay, Siobhan's very good on the relays when she's leading out, but she wasn't actually I don't think she ever swam faster on a relay start than she did on the flat start. And with Fem's best split, I think, is 50.6, if I'm remembering correctly. So I don't think that was too much of a consideration, but mainly, again, because like I said, we're always looking at the opportunity to move people around, but it has to be like a balance. It has to be like, okay, if we take her out of the 400, who are we putting into that spot? And there's just not a lot of options in there. And that was one of the reasons she did the 400, because we didn't really have a lot of other options that were going to be as competitive.
Thank you, Tom. And with that, let's move to the next event, and it is the male 4x100 meters medley relay. And my first question goes to you, Mads. Your B relay consisted of Skierka to Wilby to Andrew to Richards, and your A relay was Litchfield to Koch to Poprava to Timmers. And my big question to you is, what was Michael Andrew doing in the B relay? Because from one point of view, potentially you can use your superstar swimmer for the A relay. Maybe he could have done backstroke. Maybe he could have done freestyle. Poprava did great in the butterfly leg. But it seems like he probably wouldn't have been much faster than neither Timmers or Litchfield in their respective legs. So did you ever consider just to rest Michael? Because he's a heavily used swimmer, and to put him in a B relay seems like an interesting decision. Could you elaborate on that?
Yeah, like we went back and forth a lot on these medley relays, because we simply had we were kind of missing the big superstars on the 100 for the men. We had some good 200 swimmers, we had some good 50 swimmers, but we were a little bit missing the superstars in the 100. So I thought like going with Joe for backstroke here was actually a pretty good decision. He was competing with Adam Telechi for that spot, and I think Joe did really well here. For Marco with the breaststroke, I think that was pretty good as well. Around the 56, that was what we could get out of him at that point. And I think Michael was about the same if we would put him on the A relay. For the fly, Poprava did great. We could also put Joe on the fly, but we didn't really have a lot of people who could swim the 100 fly really fast. Later on, we went on to use Michael for that, and he also split a 50 point, I think. So he could have been used there as well, like you said. And for freestyle, Timmers, he was just really steady. Like he was always around those 46 high, 47 low in the last meet of his career. So I thought we were pretty happy about this lineup actually. But you do have a point. We could have rested Michael on the B relay, but Michael is a real team guy. Like he's he's the team captain of the men's team. Like he wanted to be in the competition and he wanted to provide us with every option that we could. So he was open for swimming or relays. He didn't want to be rested. So I think that was the basis of our decisions, that like he really wanted to be in there. So he was kind of building into the competitions, and I think he got a little bit better throughout the competition. And I think his best match was the semifinal. So I think this was a stepping stone for him to get even better throughout the competitions and performing at a higher level at the end.
Oh, and that's a great approach, the one that Michael used, as you mentioned before, because he trained by his own, so he has not a lot of relay experience, we can say, and the most he can take from it will help his team in the next ISL seasons and also for the US. But a question for you, Matteo. This performance from the Aqua Centurions men's team was one of the best, I would say, from this match. Matteo Rivolta, Nicolo Martinenghi, Savo once again, and Miresi closing for you in the freestyle leg. But it seemed that during the entire season, I've been mentioning this with, for example, with Marco, the last podcast, that the backstroke was the stroke that you lack the most. And Matteo, a butterfly specialist, was used a lot in this backstroke. My question would be, what is going to be your approach for recruiting backstrokers, especially considering that the base of your team are Italian swimmers, and nowadays the Italian backstrokers are in a very high level on the world?
Well, from the last season, I already got one very good backstroker, Simone Sabbioni. He's a guy capable of swimming 49.5, 49.6. That is a great time. It's a time that allowed us to win quite a lot of 4x100 medley relays. So we had in our team this guy, and we was pretty happy with that. But unfortunately, he was not able to come to Budapest 10 days before the match start. So we was not very lucky with this stuff. But again, we have even one other very good backstroker swimmer. He's a young guy. He's Thomas Chacon. He swam 52.8 the last national championship long course. So we have several options for the next season, and of course, we do not have other swimmers. We have to use a guy that is not a specialist, as you said, and we have no other option. So we knew that was very hard with the energy standard, because we have this mismatch in backstroke, and then all the other strokes almost even. So, but 1 second behind them in the backstroke, and the relay is over.
Makes sense. Thank you, Matteo. And Tom, a question to you. Your B relay consisted of Shevtsov, Grievers, Lima, and Kolesnikov, and your A relay was Manadu, Leclerc, Shimanovic, and Drilov. And this was an outstanding relay. You guys really seemed like you were really determined to win this. And the A relay is your A squad. there wasn't really no messing around there. But my big question is regarding the B relay. Matt Grievers doing butterfly? Why? And it seemed like you guys used Matt Grievers for butterfly quite a bit. He was also doing the 50 butterfly. Why Matt Grievers on the butterfly?
Yeah, that's a good question. And I actually mentioned this when we were talking about the 400 freestyle. But what ended up happening was that Max Litchfield was sick.
Mm-hmm.
And the short answer is that that's why Matt Grievers was in the butterfly, because Max Litchfield was sick. Max was generally slated for the 400 freestyle. Krager Zerk, and actually we also had another boy with coronavirus who was not able to swim yet as well. So we had two people who could potentially swim the 100 butterfly, but they were not able to do that. So once you take out that, Krager could go into the 400 freestyle, but then he couldn't do the 100 butterfly, the 4x100 free, the 400 free, and this relay. So we kind of talked to the team, and we did discuss with the team who they felt would be the best one to fit into that slot. And Matt stood up, and Matt was a fantastic addition to our squad. He's such an excellent leader. He's got such a wealth of experience, and he was just really grateful to have the opportunity to be in Budapest. And I think to Byron's point earlier about Brent's experience, I think a lot of the swimmers echoed the same sentiments, that the opportunity to be in Budapest for 6 weeks and have the opportunity to train and compete with such a great squad of our team, but also the other teams, and they all really appreciated that. And Matt was just the epitome of all that. So he would swim anything, he's just like, whatever, just let me know, whatever you want me to swim. So yeah, and 51.89 on this relay was certainly good enough for where we had hoped for. So yeah, he was really good for that.
Thank you, Tom. And Tom, we typically touch base upon this once we get to the skins race, but I know you're a busy guy and you have somewhere to go. So I want to ask you this now, since I have the opportunity. Why freestyle?
So we knew that the chances of us choosing the skins were probably pretty high as we went through. And we wanted to allow some of the athletes to have the opportunity to race those skins, because remember that the skins is big points, and that points contributes to the MVP and also their prize money. We knew obviously Caleb Dressel was not in this one, so that we didn't really have to worry about him in the skins, and that really gave Florent the opportunity to go for a big win in there. And we talked last season quite a lot about giving Chad to go out in the freestyle skins. We wanted to see what he could do, but we weren't sure whether he would make it out of the first round. I think we felt very strongly that if Chad had the speed to get out of round one, he would do pretty well. We didn't know if he had that speed. And so part of that decision was allowing both Flo and Chad to go for those MVP points, and also for us to get the feedback on how Chad would do in a freestyle skins.
Makes sense. Thank you, Tom. And with that, let's move to the next event, and it is the female 100 meters freestyle. And my first question goes to you, Byron. You had Julie Main and Michelle Coleman race for you. Julie swam at 53.58 and Michelle swam at 52.72, which are great performances for them. They weren't amazing, but they swam up to their abilities. But did you ever consider racing Louise Hansen in that, especially considering her freestyle is something to be proud of? She's a great freestyler.
It entered, but part of our discussions with Louise were, she said, I want to race. I want to do a lot. I'll help the team, but I don't want to race, 17 times, like, in other words, she can do so many events fairly well from gauging from her NCAA experience, that we had to take that into account. And because we had the 100 IM a few events later, the feeling was that 100 freestyle was so rich that she might not score very many points anyway. and we might as well have other people in that event and save her for the 100 IM. Whereas if Louise was really on her form, she might actually be able to win or finish second in the 100 IM. So that was the logic behind it. And the relays splits that she had given us were good, but didn't indicate that she should necessarily be in the 100-meter freestyle. Michelle was a slam dunk. She was a very, very important signing for us. She's a world-class sprinter, and there are a lot of very good sprinters in the ISL. So it was tough to score points there. So we needed Michelle in there for sure, but kind of felt that we wanted to save Louise for later races because she was going to have the 100 IM, the 50 butterfly, the mixed relay, and depending on the skins, whatever that is. So she already had 3 events that day. A 4th event didn't seem like it was going to give us enough. Kind of what Tom mentioned earlier. You might gain a point there over your second entry, but you might lose it later in the meet when she's too tired. So that was our logic.
Makes sense. Totally makes sense. And especially considering the density of the results in this 100-meter freestyle and density of names. Yeah, it makes sense.
Pretty rich. It was very rich field. So
yeah, and talking about the names and the people that were present in this race, I mean, I know that Kesia Wasik until this point, Matt, was a swimmer that had established herself as one of the fastest sprint females in the ISL, but I mean, I know that she was retired a few years ago. She came back, and nowadays she's one of the fastest sprint females, not only during ISL, but in history. So do you think that the ISL, especially this opportunity of doing a lot of events in a short period of time, is going to benefit most the young people, but also the oldest ones that are coming from retirement, as Byron mentioned before, the breaststroke, Anton, now Kesia, Flo Manadu, it's one of them. So what's your thoughts on that?
I think the ISL makes swimming a little bit more professional. And I think that the lifestyle is better for an athlete. So that way, I think a lot of people, when they get into their late 20s, early 30s, and the alternative is to have a 9-to-5 job, I think a lot of people would prefer to extend their swimming career a few years and be part of the ISL, because it makes this whole setup makes it financially viable, but also that it's a really good competition, and I think it's good promotion for the athletes. So it gives them sponsors, it gives them a lot of credit for their results. I think some of them are mentioned as superheroes and so on, and I think that is a well-deserved recognition for great athletes, right? And I think that makes it a more sustainable lifestyle to be a swimmer later on in your career. So even like late 20s, early 30s, and like Brent, like maybe even all the way into your 40s. I think it's a great thing.
Thank you, Mads. And with this being said, Tom, you had obviously Shoban Jorge and Femke Hemsker represent you in this race. An excellent result from both of the girls. My big question to you is, how would you explain the diversity and the events Shoban swims? Because it's so rare nowadays to see someone good in the 100, 200, and the 400-meter freestyle.
You know, Siobhan's never actually, she hadn't swum the 400 short course until this ISL season. And she certainly, I don't think she ever really got comfortable with it. You know, talking with her, she was always counting down the number of 400 she had left to do in the season. And so it's certainly not really an event that she enjoys to do. The way that she swims her 200, I think she comes at that more from a speed point of view than an endurance point of view, although she obviously has great speed endurance and she is a great 200 swimmer. You know, she really wanted to get some times. She had time goals in mind for both the 100 and the 200 coming into the season, and I think that was a big motivator for her. She was going a lot of best times in both those
Asian records all around.
Yes, a lot of Asian records, and just kind of chipping away every time, just trying to make a few small adjustments each time. So yeah, I think definitely the 100 and 200 is her wheelhouse, and the 400 short course is, you know, she's able to bridge that because she's a very good long course 200 freestyler, and I think that there's always a bit of a transfer from the short course 400 to the long course 200.
Thank you, Tom. And with this, let's move to the next event. It is the female 100 meters individual medley. And once again, my first question goes to you, Tom. You had Marie-Sophie Harvey and Anastasia Shkurdai represent you in this race. Marie-Sophie swam at 58.92 and Anastasia swam at 58.34. To begin with, there was only a handful of people who are capable of breaking 58 seconds barrier in this ISL season in the 100 meters individual medley. And seeing Anastasia swim at 58.34 was very impressive. However, Marie-Sophie Harvey seems more of an individual medley specialist than Anastasia. Did Marie-Sophie ever feel bad about not getting first in this event?
Sorry, I lost you in the last half of that. What was the last question, sir?
So did Marie-Sophie ever felt bad or felt like she underperformed because she ended up being defeated by someone who doesn't necessarily specialize in individual medley events and trains with her day to day? And I would assume so. Marie-Sophie is a lot more comfortable in swimming the individual medley events. So was she at all frustrated after this?
I mean, so both of those two had some real good swims, and obviously coming in the previous match, we'd had Sara in the 100 IM, and both of those two did best times. Anastasia, neither of them had ever been under a minute before that, I don't think. And so obviously they were both quite excited to go 58. Specifically Mary, I don't think she's raced many 100 IMs, and it's quite a different race even than a 200 IM. It's, that's very sprinty. And although, like we had previously stated, she did do some good 50 backstrokes by the end of the season, she's not naturally a sprinter. She needs to really focus in on some of those, the attention to detail that obviously is so important in sprints, and for her to learn how to do an event takes a few times to practice it and feel out where she needs to go. So she was quite happy with that, best time. I think obviously she would, given the fact that it was a fairly close race, she would probably have liked to be second or first. But I think all of these athletes are quite happy to perform for the team and get the points for the team, and we try to really focus them on that as we go through.
Yeah, absolutely. That's the point of the ISL, helping your team. And I mean, if you do a personal best, I mean, who wouldn't be happy after doing that? I mean, the fastest you've ever been in your career. But a question for you, Byron. We mentioned before that Lewis Hanson was getting ready for this 100 individual medley. You also had there Kelsey Walk, who actually, took the victory ahead of, we can say that victory or place in a better position that Lewis Hanson Walk finished in 4th place and Lewis in 5th place. So were you disappointed because you did not use Lewis in the 100 freestyle to rest her for this race, but he did not maybe fulfill the expectations, the overall expectations?
Disappointment isn't the right word. I think she was disappointed. I think, she's a professional athlete. She had certain expectations, and she just felt that for whatever reason, her strokes weren't 100% on, particularly the breaststroke, which she's really not done any work on. And she was also constantly missing her turns. It was a weird situation, and I know it's not an excuse. And she kept coming back to me and with this frustration. I mean, she's 6'2", so in the butterfly, if you don't quite time it right, that's one hell of a big stroke or a long kick to get to the wall as opposed to a shorter swimmer. So, and she was, I think it had a lot to do with maybe her years being an NCAA swimmer. She was always about a half a stroke off. And you know what? You make a few tenths of a mistake there, a few tenths of a mistake in the breaststroke or whatever, and before you know it, you're going 59 instead of 58, and you're not in the medals. So she was frustrated from that. And as I said again, a lot of that has to do, I think, with the moving around a couple of months due to the pandemic. So she'll be even better next year. And Kelsey Wog, it's kind of like Marie-Sophie Harvey. Kelsey Wog is a Canadian swimmer, and she's better at the 200s as well. The sprint is a different animal, and it's tough for her. She's got a long stroke. It's tough for her to get going. So for her to be able to finish 4th right behind Marie-Sophie, was really quite an effort. Mary Sophie is a wonderful athlete, wonderful young woman, and she is tailor-made for the ISL. She is so versatile, and Energy Standard's very lucky to have her.
We agree.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Byron. And Mads, a question to you. You had Sarah Vasi and Abby Wood represent you in this race. Sarah swam at 101.94. Abby swam at 58.48. Great performance for Abby. But my big question to you is just looking at this field. You have Marie-Sophie Harvey, who ended up getting third. She's a youngster. Anastasia Shkurdai, a youngster. Abby Wood, a youngster. Top three in this event were very young swimmers. Do you feel like the results in this event are going to drastically improve in the further seasons, just because it seems like the people who are talented at this event are still very young, and you could expect them to improve immensely, right?
Well, definitely. I really liked working with Abby at the ISL. She was great, and she's a great athlete. She swims the 100, 200, and 400 IM. And the day before this race, she broke the British record 200 IM. So she had a lot of confidence going into this. And I think she can definitely improve. I think she improved a lot on her breaststroke in the time we were there. She swims a good backstroke. She split 52 on the freestyle relays on the 100. So I really think she did a good job moving herself forward. And I think she's going to continue doing that. So yeah, I definitely see them going faster. I think there are going to be next year a lot more 57s. Definitely.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you,
And
Mads.
this is a question for all of you guys. Do you think that because this was a new event added to this season, people are going to focus more on the 100 IM and not putting it a little bit on the side and just swimming it to fulfill that spot that they have to do? Do you think they are going to be more specialized 100 IMers as Michael Andrew, for example?
I'll take. I have a thought on that. Is that we had some really good 100 IMers on our team, especially on the men's side. Florent Manadou, Clement Kolesnikov's been a world short course champion in that event, and it's a difficult thing to answer because you have to fit it into the team context, and we ended up not putting either of those guys in the race because we needed them in other areas. Not that they couldn't, they both raced it at some point during the season, but we're looking at it, especially looking at the way Caleb swims it, it's going to be hard to score points, and it's very difficult to justify taking, let's say Clement out of the 100 backstroke where he's, he got the world record back again, putting him in the 100 IM. You can't do them both. Same with Florent, taking him out of another event and putting him in the 100 IM. It's hard. So, fitting it into the bigger picture is the bigger question. And I think every event is worth the same amount of points. So I don't think anyone kind of glosses over one, but I think it's more about how to get the best out of your team. And sometimes that means you don't see the best swimmer from a team in that event. So
Thank you, Tom.
I would think that the change with the 100 IM, I think, is going to come in the sense that there are athletes that are very, very good. I guess you can fake 100 IM. And what I mean by that is if you're a very good sprinter, like, Szabo or somebody, and you got a great fly back and you can do a pretty strong freestyle or whatever, the weak link is usually breaststroke with these kind of people. And you can't fake a 50 and a 200 IM. You can't fake a 50 breaststroke. But I've had athletes in the past that never swam IM in their life, but all of a sudden they could fake a 100 IM and do a world-class effort. And I think what'll happen is you'll find some people that'll take a look at this and realize, you know what, if I work a little bit on my breaststroke, I wouldn't be able to do a 50 breaststroke for a successful 200 IM, but I can probably get away with a nice big pull out dolphin kick, and then, legal dolphin kick. And then a few strokes breaststroke, and I could do a hell of an IM. So I think that's what this is going to do. It's going to suck us some guys into the 100 IM that normally wouldn't be thinking about it, because at 200 IM, they're just not going to be in the ballpark. So
thank you, Byron. That's an interesting approach. But moving into the next event, which is the 50-meter butterfly, guys, I want to start with you, Matteo, because Sebastian did get all the attention here. 21.86, jackpotting almost everybody on the field. 24
points. Wow.
Yeah, Yeah, that's crazy. Almost breaking the world record from Nicolas Santos. So what were your thoughts on Sebastian Chavo? Because it feels that he was improving a lot. He started doing 22 double O's, 21 nines, 21 8, 21 8. So how was the progression? And can you tell us how was he training, if you had the possibility to stay with him? Because we talked to him just a few days ago, and he mentioned that he was trying to experiment before every race to see what is gonna fit the best for him in the future.
Yes, Seb, he's an amazing guy. He's an amazing athlete. We decided the day before to pull him off the 100 freestyle because he was able to break the world record, and was if it was happening, it was a great result. So he came to this 50 fly rested, and he did a great job. I was asking him anyway to jackpotted everybody on the field, and I was pretty sure I was able to do it with a great time, which he did. About training, honestly, at the beginning, the first week, it was join our group of sprinters, but a typical sprinter more focused on the 100. And it was hard time for him to be at that group because I think it was not he has not the habit to swim quite a lot. He's a guy that is focusing on sprinting, on technique, sprinting and technique, and that is kind of stuff that is working very well in short course. But if you want to swim 100, a very competitive 100 in a long course, you need to work a little bit more. And then he saw that even with this kind of workout in the short term, in short time, was not affecting his energy, his freshness. So I think during these 5 weeks, he was able to have this experimental on himself, try to do something else compared what he's usually do, and maybe have some good feedback for the future, and try to move to the next level, even in the long course.
Thank you, Matteo. And a question towards you, Mads. You had Joe Litchfield and Mike Landry racing this 50 meters butterfly. Joe swam at 22.86 and Michael swam at 22.57. First of all, this is, I believe, a huge moral victory for Michael, because just having a look at the names he competed against in this 50 fly, he managed to defeat Chad Leclos, Matt Grievers, Andrew Govarov, Ryan Shane. These are all huge names. Even Matteo Rivolta, huge names in the world of butterfly. And Michael, I mean, he's a grade 50 butterfly, but I believe that was a huge moral victory for him. Would you agree?
Oh, definitely. Like he had swum 22.8 in the previous matches and didn't quite nail the race the way he wanted to, but here he definitely improved on his level and moved the race forward. And especially, I believe he worked on some underwaters and transitions. And I think he did a really good job here. And it's like I said, like he was very competitive and a really good guy to have in our team, because he really wanted to score points for the team. He wanted to move the team forward. And he did a great job here. It was really a tight race and a good race, but he kept moving himself forward throughout the competitions. And I really liked the way that he progressed in especially this event.
Thank you, Mads. And Tom, a question to you. You had Matt Grievers and Chad Leclos swim for you. Matt swam at 23.4 and Chad swam at 22.65. 22.65 is pretty damn good for Chad for his 50 fly. I mean, you can't be mad at this. But at the same time, I kind of wanted to ask you this for the previous butterfly leg of Matt Grievers, but unfortunately, it's a medley relay, so Kolesnikov and Rylov were occupied. But this is one of the final events, and you already knew that the skins were in backstroke, so maybe you could have used Rylov or Kolesnikov for that 50 fly, because both Rylov and Kolesnikov have an outstanding 50 fly short course. I believe Rylov was breaking 23 seconds short course when he was 16, which is insane.
Yeah, no, I mean, Evgeny is a fantastic athlete. but I mean, so is Clement as well. The context around that one is that we wanted to make sure that our mixed relay was going to be protected, and Evgeny was leading off that relay, so we weren't going to use him. And Clement had a bit of a rough first match, and he was really building some positive momentum, and we did not want to overuse him. One of the things that we saw even on the first day of this match was that we saw that he was a lot better, but that we still felt that we had leaned a little bit too heavily on him with too many events, and we didn't want to do that again. We wanted to make sure that he was building his confidence as we moved through the semi and the final. And like I said, Matt kind of got the nod and the butterfly on of Max Lich's absence, and it's going to be fantastic in this. We knew that we were probably going to get jackpotted whoever was in our second spot. So,
okay, thank you, Tom. And if we just pretend the 50 free skins weren't done in freestyle, would you consider racing flow in this?
Absolutely, for sure.
Okay.
Again, with flow though, it's always a balance between the relays, because I got that mixed freestyle relay coming up, the 100 freestyle individual event, and or the 100 IM. So with flow, he's the type of person, again, like we've said, is very valuable for ISL because he can do so many events. But unlike some of the others, he can't do that many events back to back. Like we said, he's a big muscly guy, and he does not recover very well. I think, we talked a little bit about that earlier, but I think that his muscle means that he needs longer to recover. And I think that even over this season of ISL, especially because it was so condensed, we didn't necessarily see the best out of him because he was never able to really recover between matches.
Thank you, Tom. Makes sense. And with that, let's move to the next event. Sorry,
I was just going to ask a quick question. Yeah, didn't Flo sit the next meet out totally to recover after this one?
I think maybe he did. I can't remember which one, but yeah, he missed one of them. It might have been
one entire meet to recover, which I thought was good, as they call it, load management. I thought that worked out really well for him.
Yeah, we tried to protect our star athletes before the most important matches, the semi and the final, and I think we did make the call to rest him out of one of the matches. I can't remember which one though.
Yeah, it's a opportunity and a benefit. I believe only a few teams can allow themselves to rest one of their best athletes. Yeah. But with that being said, let's move to the next event, and it is the female 50 meters backstroke skins. And my first question actually goes to you, Matteo. You had Theodora Dracau and Etienne Medeiros race for you in this event. Theodora only managed to make it to the first round. She swam at 27:43 and was kicked out, but not Etienne. Etienne swam at 26:65, made it to the second round, but then swam at 28:50. Now, we've spoken about Etienne before. You mentioned that her preparation before the ISL wasn't ideal, and she was also training hard during the entire season. But with that being said, Etienne Medeiros was the ex-world record holder in the 50-meter backstroke. And my big question to you is, do you feel like if Medeiros was in optimal shape, she could have been a strong skins race swimmer, or we would have always seen this drastic drop in comparison to her first and second 50s?
Honestly, I think for her it's very hard to swim back-to-back event. So it would be nothing different if it was in 100% shape. Maybe she was able to swim a little bit faster in the second 50s, but not that fast to allow her to make the cut for the third round. She's a girl. I saw her. She's very difficult for her to keep her body like fresh from the beginning till the end. You can see in the first day she was able to swim quite well in the first two events, and then in the relay 100 in the underback. So she's a girl like Florence. She need rest. She need to get rest to be able to swim very fast. I didn't know her very well because for us is the first time, the first season. But I think she's a girl, a kind of athlete that she has one shot.
Mm-hmm. Makes
Thank
sense.
you, Matteo. Yeah.
Thank you, Matteo.
Yeah, definitely recovery is key during the ISL and especially during the skins races. But talking about people that can overcome that adversity of doing a lot of races back to back, I mean, Byron, Kylie Mass, she did a relays 200 back, 50 backstroke, 100 backstroke, and once again during this skins event, she was first after the first round, first after the second round, and finally getting that victory ahead of Emily Sebon by only 0.6. Very, very close race until the end. So how happy was she after her performance? And what was your reaction, especially considering that she was very consistent with a 26.19, 26.82, and finally 27.17, considering also that backstroke and the legs are hurting a lot after 350s.
You must have been a backstroker. Yes, the legs do give out big time in the backstroke with the underwater dolphin and that. The interesting part, she was very pleased. I was very pleased. I mean, and I also like it just simply because she's a little bit, I wouldn't say under the radar, since she's a two-time world champion and Olympic medalist, but is not ever spoken about with some of the great names in swimming. So this is a nice way for her to get some attention from the world of swimming because she's such an elite, tremendous athlete. The interesting part about her was that her short course is nowhere near as good as her long course swimming. Again, this has to do with the fact that her underwater isn't quite as good as some of the other swimmers that she does race. She can beat them long course, but short course, sometimes it's a bit of a challenge. So what the interesting part I'm going to mention is that because of the COVID and the lockdown, Canada was out of the water for 12 weeks. We had 12 weeks without any training. But luckily for her, she has a 10-meter pool in her backyard. Her parents have a pool in the backyard. And so I asked the family to fill it up in the end of March. Yes, it was very chilly outside in Canada, but they filled it up. And so we did a lot of work with her, doing a lot of dolphin kicking with a harness on. And I actually think it helped her. I think it helped her underwater kick marginally, but a little bit is all you need at this world level to get a little bit better. And she added an extra kick off the start and the turn that she normally had not done in the past. So those little things allowed her to improve her game and be able to take on the people in the field. I knew from day one the race was with Emily Sebon. They've raced dozens and dozens of times, and many of the races have been decided by hundreds of seconds. So everything had to be right. And I felt Kylie really rose to the challenge and did a great job. And it was a great way to finish the meet off for us because we had a great meet, maybe one of the surprises of the ISL, I would argue. And this was a way to finish off this second meet with accomplishing basically everything we wanted to do. It was a real high for us.
And that,
Byron,
if I'm not wrong, that was the first round was actually Kylie's best 50 back of the entire season, right?
It was actually. So she was really pumped. She gets pretty excited when she needs to be. You'd never notice it looking at her. She's very calm, but inside she really draws all the muscles she needs. And that was her best time ever. Yeah. So in the ISL and compared to last year even. So.
Thank you, Byron. And actually, Tom, with that being said, Georgia Davis and Emily Sebon raced the skins race for you. Georgia made it to the second round, 26.57 and a 27.49, and Emily made it all the way to the third round, 26.46, 27.28, 27.79. First of all, it seems like you guys prepared for the season very, very well, because just looking at the various picks for the skins race, Toronto Titans could have made. You guys were comfortable with pretty much anything, right? For you, freestyle, you had covered. Butterfly was probably your number one pick. Backstroke, you were obviously fine at. Breaststroke, you had Pilata. Were you when you were recruiting? Were you accounting for the skins race straight away, pretty much, just to have everything covered like that?
I mean, yes and no. like I said earlier, we really, on our women's side, we really strongly recruited around the medley relays in order to be able to hopefully make some of the decisions around the skins. In that way, yes, we certainly did. However, when you look at our team, both Emily and Georgia were on our team last season, so we didn't specifically, obviously, recruit them in for the skins. But I think, our team has been, both seasons been quite good on the sprint events, and I think that we were, as we filled up the roster for those medley relays, especially on the women's side, it filled in for the skins quite well. And as you said, we weren't terribly worried about which event any team would choose for the women's skins. We knew that and the men's skins, we knew that we had the depth in both of those. Difficult to get the win in some of them, but we knew that regardless of what the other teams chose, we would have options. And in this one, although obviously Emily and Georgia did really well, it was very, very close. I think like Lisa, the first round was in 6th, and they made the choice for backstroke. So you may at some point say, well, that's confusing, but she was only 6th by 0.5.
Hello, Tom. I believe your Wi-Fi kind of glitched. You disappeared for a bit, but thank you. With that, let's move to the male 50-meter freestyle skins. And to start things off, my first question goes to you, Byron. You had Andrei Govorov and Michael Chadwick race for you. Andrei Govorov swam at 21:68 and Michael swam at 21:43. Both of them failed to make it to that second round. But my big question to you is, why Andrei Govorov? You guys didn't use him for the 50-meter freestyle, and Andrei Govorov is notorious for being horrendous at holding speed. His second 50 would have been not very pretty to see. So why Andrei here?
Great question, Ivan. You know your swimmers. I wanted to give him a shot at the 50 free to see if we were going to use him in the future. You're right. He would have never advanced to the final round, but I don't think we had anybody on our team that was going to advance to the final round. So this was a question of, could we get anybody out of the first round into the second round? And we just thought he might just have that in him. So we decided to give it a shot. Sergei Fesikov is a very good sprinter, but he had just come off the butterfly before this. So I thought he would probably be too tired. And Chadwick, Michael was, the guy that we recruited to do this job, and he came real close. He was only a 10th away from being able to advance to the second round. And I think had he advanced to the second round, he might have had a shot at the third round because he's pretty able to. Chadwick,
100%, he can hold speed. Yeah.
Yes,
no, that's undoubtable.
Absolutely. So our big thing was trying to get him through the first round, and he just missed. I think it was 9/100ths of a second, actually. So that would have been a real nice breakthrough. And he was riding a bit of a high because, of course, Kylie had just come off winning the women's skins. So that would have been the icing on the cake if we would have had that one. Good for our team and also good for Michael. He gave it everything he had. He was a great leader on our team. He did a big cheer before every meet, and he was a really good guy to have. And would have been nice for him to get through, but he just didn't quite make it.
Thank you, Byron.
Very good performances there by the two Toronto Titan swimmers. But Matt, the one that did make that first cut was Michael Andrew ahead of Michael Chadwick, and was the only New York breaker that was able to make it after the first round. So how excited was Michael? Because you mentioned before, he's a team guy, he's a team captain, and he's able to get himself into that second round. He did not make it into the final round, but how was the reaction of the team, especially that you were fighting against Aqua Centurions for that third place?
Well, it was fun. The whole team kind of gets in the box before the last race of every match. So we're all together there, and there's a bit more atmosphere. I really enjoyed that. And it was fun for Michael because his dad was the skins coach. So when he got out of the water, his dad was there, and they talked about how to progress the races and so on. And I think Michael really enjoyed that. And like, it's nice to see the whole team rally behind one athlete. And I think Michael enjoyed that. But I definitely did. I thought it was a nice way to finish the match.
No,
yeah.
100%.
And especially your team box, you mentioned the breakers were only showing that happiness and excitement that they were happy to be there. But also, Matteo, here, Sebastian Chavo and Alessandro Miresi, you did not have the best Kings races on the female side, but on the other hand, on the men's side, I mean, finished second and third after the first round. After the second round, only Savo make it to the final round, and he was defeated by Flo Maradu by almost 1 second. But I mean, getting to that final round is quite an achievement, and especially considering that Savo is not a true freestyle specialist, he's more a butterflyer. So what was your overall reaction and opinion about Savo's and Miresi's performances?
So couple of days before, I was trying with Sabo to do a skiing race, fly skiing race. Was hoping to win the medley relay and maybe choose the fly. And was able to keep to all the pace very easily on fly. In freestyle, the only guy on the field able to swim, let's say, relaxed, the first and even the second 50, the second round was Florent. Because if I remember well, it was swimming like 21-0, 21-1 at the first one, and then 21-7, and the last one was 22-2. For
Exactly.
Seb, the first round was already all out. The second round was all out, and of course was very difficult for him to bring the first place in the last round. Honestly, I was quite happy with the 50 freestyle because I knew that if Alessandro Miresi was able to move to the second round, he's a guy that is very good in the 100 and is even able to swim a very fast 200. So it was I got two bullets, and I was short that I had a lot of chances to get to the third round. So I was quite happy. It didn't make any differences because we were quite a lot behind all the other team, but it was very, 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 very funny to see, and we were very happy to see this skiing race.
Oh, yeah. And Matteo, yeah, I mean, counting at Flo, this race went as good as it could for you. If not for Flo, this would have been the perfect skins race for you. And I wanted to ask you about this. You know, we see at this point, it was quite evident that you guys were coming fourth, right? It was really hard to change that in the match.
Yeah.
And you see a lot of teams, when they realize they can't change their positioning, kind of give up. Maybe not consciously, but give up maybe a little bit mentally, and it shows in their performance, but not with Aqua Centurions. Aqua Centurions, no matter how dim your chances looked or how bad the situation looked, you guys seem to thrive in that environment almost most. Like, have a look at these skins race. You guys had the best race you could have hoped for, pretty much. Could you answer me why is your team so resilient in the face of adversity?
I think because in the end of the day, nobody wanna lose. Maybe you are fourth as a team, but when the guys jump to the blocks, they do not. In the end, they do not think about the team. They think that they wanna touch the wall first. This was the mind approach that I tried to tell to everybody, to all the athletes. Just do not think just about the team. Think about yourself and touch that wall first. Try to beat all the others, because you have the chance to swim 5 times in 1 month, 5 different competition. You will meet a lot of your opponent. You will find at the Olympic Games. So try to have the habit to touch this wall first. Try to beat them, because this will allow you. They will train you a lot. For me, one of the best practice is competition, because you will never find anything like competition in training, in practice. So try to use this time to have the right mindset, the right approach, and try to beat everybody on the field.
Thank you, Matteo. And a final question to Tom. Tom, you had Chad Leclerc and Flo Manado represent you in this race. Chad swam at 21:60 and Flo swam at 21:03, 21:78, and at 22:27. And my first question is regarding Chad. Do you feel like he could have made some damage if he managed to make it to that second round? And if he's made it to the second round, do you believe Chad would be the athlete here, the drop-off time of which would be the least? And also a question regarding Flo. You mentioned Flo got a little heavier, and theoretically, I would assume that would inhibit his skins performances. Do you believe Flo would have been better at the skins in 2014 when he was in peak shape in these world champs?
Yeah, I definitely think he would have been a skin swimmer in have been a better long course 50-meter freestyle swimmer. I think he's probably him really get a good shot because obviously yet have a chance.
Tom, I apologize. I'll have to cut you off there because the internet connection is very unstable. We can unfortunately barely hear you. It's every fifth word. But
sorry.
Is it better now?
Yeah, I think. Sorry, I don't know what happened there. I got disconnected.
Sorry, continue then. You seem absolutely fine now.
Okay, yeah. So I was saying that I think Flo would definitely have been better in 2014 in the skins, but he would have been not as good as he could potentially be now in the long course 50, though we haven't seen that. Regarding Chad, yeah, I do think that if Chad's best time in the 50 free short course is 21:05, so for him to go 21:32 would have been quite a task to make it through the first round. I guess he would have to been 21:31 to make it through the first round. But if he could have done that, I think, yes, we would have definitely seen him maintain his speed much better than the others. But it's all conjecture, it's all hearsay. And, with regards to Flo, and he, one of the things that he wanted to do in this, he knew that the MVP points was riding on his ability to swim, not just win each round on this, but if he had ended up jackpotting Szabo on the last round, he would have won the MVP, which I think he lost by 3.5 points to Siobhan. So he was trying to get that jackpot on the last round. He was trying to get that overall MVP for the match, and he just missed it by hundreds, I think. I'm not sure exactly, but yeah.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I didn't realize how close he was from snatching that MVP title from Siobhan, of course. But thank you, Tom. And this about concludes our match analysis of match 6. Energy Standard ended up winning with 609 points. Toronto Titans got second, 448 points. New York Breakers got third, 354.5 points. And Aqua Centurions got fourth, 290.5 points. By the way, this was a relatively close match for the third position. Closer than a lot of these matches. But with that, do you guys have any final words about the match or to the fans? Matteo, do you want to start?
Again, for us, it was our last call, this sixth match. If we was able to beat at least New York Breakers, we had some chance to maybe go to the semi-final. In the end, we got the fourth place, so we were sure that we were not going to the semi-final. At this point, we had one more competition left, and again, in the meeting that night, I try to speak with all the team, with all the athletes, try to motivate them to keep focusing, to keep the right mindset, the right approach, to to stay in the game in the last competition, because I don't want to see like people messing around, even because we have to have respect for the others, So and they did. Honestly, they did, and I was quite happy with that.
Thank you, Matteo. And any words to the Aqua Centurions fans?
Sorry?
Any words to the Aqua Centurion fans?
Of course. I can't wait for the next season, and I'm pretty sure that we'll be able to fight against almost everybody. Maybe not with the first two teams, Energy Standard and Cali Condors, but we will reach that level as soon as possible, of course.
Thank you.
Some Italian words, Forza Centurione.
Thank you, Matteo. But with that, Mads, a couple of words from you. Any conclusive words on the match? Any words to the New York Breakers fans? Mads, you're mute.
Sorry. Yeah, we started out
good.
with a really tough match, but I think our swimmers got better and we progressed as a team and everybody got better. And I think it was a really fun journey for our team. And I think some athletes even surprised themselves, which I think is what it's all about. They reached new levels, kind of got into new positions and got recognitions that they never got before. So I think that was the main thing from the ISL. And I'd say to the New York Breaker fans that we're going to be better next year. So just keep an eye out, and can't wait.
Everyone's going to be better. The finalists better watch out.
Yeah, definitely.
Thank you, Mads. Byron, a couple of words from you.
Yeah, it was an interesting situation because we really had a hell of a meet. I mean, we exceeded our own expectations, really, and I certainly think one or two other coaches came up and said, "Geez, we thought you guys were going to be okay, but you were even better than okay. You did a great job here," and I was really, really pleased with how the athletes performed. So now I'm in this situation where it looks like we're making the playoffs for sure, but we got two more meets. And that was what we've dangled in front of the athletes to motivate them to really get excited. And now it looks like we're going to make it no problem. So what I've got to do is try to now make sure that they don't lose their motivation, because we've done what we came to do. We're going to make the playoffs. So that was an interesting dilemma. We tried to keep them excited by saying, look, we still have to beat Washington and assert ourselves in our third meet. And then by the fourth meet, we actually were going to back off a little bit and save for the playoffs. But so we basically, accomplished what we wanted, had a great meet, couldn't have done anything better. I think also Matt's mentioned something, and it's very true. There were a lot of athletes that I wouldn't say resurrected their career, but really established their careers in the ISL because of this competition, this 4 weeks. People like Anton in the breaststroke and people like Shane Ryan and stuff. We just had a lot of people that really came forward and did a great job. So I was quite pleased. I was quite pleased for the athletes. I mean, obviously it's all about them. So it all worked to a charm in this meet, and it was just sort of good sailing going forward. And as far as notes or messages to the people out there, I mean, we were an expansion team and we were able to move up pretty well. So can we build on it? We're certainly going to try, but obviously Matt's is going to try, and Tom's going to continue to get better, and everybody else is. So it's not going to be easy. That's for damn sure. We got our new shirt. Go buy your shirt at the store, guys. All right. We just got these out for sale. So
I got mine, by the way.
You like that?
Oh yeah, I love it.
So we're going to keep, we'll keep building, and, we're looking forward to it. I understand there might be a draft, Ivan, more of those things, but, that'll be exciting as well. And we have a few holes that we have to fill for sure. And if we do, we're going to be a lot better. Thank you,
Byron. And Tom, a couple of conclusive words from the coach of the winning team.
Yeah, this was a really, really good match. I think all the way through, not just for Energy Standard, but for everybody involved, because there was so much excitement all the way through. I mean, one of the most exciting things is when you see that Aqua Centurions men's team were only 50 points behind Energy Standard. It's pretty exceptional. And like I was saying with the MVP points, and Flo was only 3.5 points behind Siobhan, but also so was Sebastian Zabo. They ended up tied, actually, Flo and Sebastian. So I think from so many perspectives, this was a really good match all the way through. It gave a lot of excitement in all of the races. And this is just the type of thing that everybody wants to see out of the ISL, is those matches where there's things happening and there's development all the way through. Like we talked about earlier, we saw Toronto come out real strong in that first period of play on the first day. And then from then on, it was just everyone just going all out all the way. Really, really positive. We were really proud of our athletes that stepped up, especially Fem coming back from her coronavirus stint, as well as some of the others, Anastasia, Mary Sophie, doing really, really well. So,
Thank you, Tom. And a couple of words to the Energy Standard fans.
Yes, we hope we hope to continue to do well, and we're looking forward to some of the upcoming changes and new things for ISL Season 3.
It's going to be interesting for sure. But that about concludes our Match 6 analysis. Thank you for everyone watching. Thank you, Matteo, Tom, Mads, and Byron for joining us. It was an honor and a pleasure.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And to everyone watching, our next podcast will take place on Tuesday. Please tune in and have an amazing weekend.
You too.
Bye-bye, guys.
Bye, guys.
See you later.
Have a nice one.